called Chaptered Minds.
Ooh.
It's AI-powered for book lovers and curious minds where books meet tech. Follow, review, and share.
Hey there. Ever wonder why you're naturally drawn to certain things or react in predictable ways? We're going to unpack all that good stuff about temperament. You know how it shapes us and why we do the things we do?
Right.
And we're diving deep into Why You Act the Way You Do by Tim LaHaye.
Oh, yeah, good book.
It gets into those 4 temperaments: sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic.
It's fascinating stuff. It's like more than just, personality types. Temperament is it's like the underlying code that influences how we approach everything.
Everything, exactly. And LaHaye uses some really great relatable examples too, like how each temperament drives.
It's wild how those patterns are so clear.
Oh, totally. Take, for instance, sanguines. You know that friend who can turn a traffic jam into a party?
Oh, yeah, they're the life of the party even when stuck in traffic.
Right, they're chatting up their passenger, maybe rocking out to the radio. All those honking horns don't bother them one bit.
That's so sanguine. Thriving on connection, spontaneity, all that, even on the road. It's amazing.
And then you've got your choleric driver. They're like, zoom, speeding past everybody, laser focused on getting where they need to go, as fast as humanly possible.
Efficiency is everything. Probably see a red light as a personal insult.
Speed demons, those cholerics. And then there's our meticulous melancholy driver. They've got their route planned down to the minute. They factored in traffic patterns, probably logging gas mileage, for optimal performance.
Oh, for sure. Probably have a backup plan in case of unexpected road closures.
They're prepared.
Always. But we can't forget about our phlegmatic friends. They're just cruising along, enjoying the scenery, maybe even letting other people merge in front of them.
They're just taking it easy. It's all about that calm and steady approach, even if it means they, get there a little later.
Exactly. They're like, it's all good. And speaking of different approaches, when you think about it, shopping is another area where temperament shines through. Right.
True, yeah. LaHaye talks about how sanguines are drawn to those vibrant colors, those displays that just catch your eye. They might end up with a cart full of impulse buys because something just sparked joy at that moment.
Makes sense. They're drawn to the experience, the excitement.
Totally. Whereas a choleric, they're on a mission. They know what they need. They're in and out.
Efficiency is key for them.
Yeah.
No time to waste browsing around.
No way. And then you have the melancholy shoppers. Those are the ones who are meticulously comparing prices, reading every single label, probably looking up online reviews as they're shopping.
Oh, absolutely. They want to make sure they're making the best possible choice, even if it takes a little longer.
And our easygoing phlegmatics. They're in no rush. They're enjoying the experience. They might even chat with somebody in the checkout line.
They're just present in the moment, which can be really refreshing.
Absolutely. But here's where it gets even more interesting. LaHaye says temperament actually goes beyond just our, outward behavior.
Oh, right.
It shows up in things like our handwriting and even the way we talk.
Wow, that's fascinating.
I know. It's have you ever noticed how some people just have that perfect handwriting? It's so neat and precise.
Yes. And then there are those more creative writers.
Exactly. Well, the book links that really meticulous handwriting to phlegmatics.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then those more complex, sometimes, hard to read scribbles, that's our melancholy friends.
Lost in thought.
And then the way we speak, the pace, our tone, even our word choices.
It can be really telling, can't it?
Totally. LaHaye uses this really interesting example of how Peter's speech patterns actually revealed something deeper about who he was, and he wasn't even aware of it. It's a cool example of how deeply ingrained temperament can be.
Yeah, that's a great example.
And another example, think about how we handle paying bills.
Okay, yeah.
Imagine a sanguine scrambling last minute, might even have late fees because they can't find the bill.
Oh, I know a few people like that.
Right. And then compare that to a melancholy. They probably have a color-coded spreadsheet, receipts filed perfectly, payments scheduled, way in advance.
It's amazing how different those approaches can be.
Night and day, right?
Oh, yeah, organization. That's their superpower. And, speaking of contrasting approaches, relationships, that's where temperament can really, make things interesting, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Even in parenting styles, you see it.
Oh, totally. It's amazing how, our natural tendencies, they just come out in how we parent. LaHaye describes sanguine parents as the fun parent.
Right. They're always up for an adventure.
Always. They might not be the best with rules or consistency though.
Right. And then you have your choleric parent and they like run a tight ship. They're all about the structure.
Makes sense. Those boundaries and expectations are important to them.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes more important than the kids even want.
And then the melancholy parent, it seems like they'd have these really high standards for their kids, encouraging them to excel in like everything.
You got it. They have this deep desire to see their kids reach their full potential. And they can be, a little hard on themselves.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And on the kids, too, probably. Definitely something to be mindful of. And what about the phlegmatic parent? They seem like they'd be super patient, creating that really peaceful, harmonious home.
Absolutely. They're like the calm in the storm. But LaHaye does point out that, this can go too far. It can become passive.
Right, like they might not set those firm boundaries when they need to.
Exactly, or intervene in conflicts.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, something I really connected with in the book was how he talks about the difference between, like, character and personality. It's easy to mix those up.
Oh, for sure.
LaHaye says that character is our, like, inner core, so our values, our beliefs.
Right.
And then personality is how we express those things. It's like outward facing.
It's like character is foundation of the house, and personality is like what you build on top.
That's a great way to put it. And the book argues that, like, real personal growth, it depends on knowing the difference between these two.
It's true. We have to really know ourselves before we can grow, the good and the bad.
Totally. It's so easy to hide behind, like, a mask we create.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
But real change happens when we get real with ourselves.
And to help with that, LaHaye has all these self-assessment questions. It's like really looking in the mirror,
Yeah.
Am I more introverted or extroverted? Am I a leader or do I prefer to support? Like, it really got me thinking.
It makes you think about yourself differently.
And he takes it even further with this idea of a, like, blob chart. It's this cool way to get feedback from people who know us well. Friends, family.
It's like getting their honest take on your temperament.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't see those things in ourselves.
We have blind spots, absolutely.
But LaHaye doesn't stop there. He says temperament can impact, like, our work life, too.
Oh, yeah. Finding a career path that really fits.
Right. Why try to fit a square peg in a round hole, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he talks about cholerics and their natural leadership qualities.
Oh, yeah. They can be great in those roles. CEOs, managers.
But that drive, it can also backfire if they're not careful.
How so?
Well, they might come across as impatient or insensitive.
Oh, I can see that.
Like the boss who is always barking orders and doesn't care about feelings. That's the shadow side.
So it's all about balance, using their skills, but also being empathetic.
That's it, being well-rounded and ready for something kind of surprising. He also connects temperament and spirituality.
Okay, now this is where I'm really interested. How does that work?
Well, it can influence how we approach, like, Bible study, or even how we live out our faith.
Interesting.
For example, a sanguine reading the Bible probably loves those dramatic stories.
David and Goliath.
Exactly, or those parables, full of imagery.
Yeah.
And then a choleric probably loves Proverbs and James.
Full of that practical advice.
You got it. Now, melancholies, with all their deep thinking, they might be drawn to, like, those complex theological ideas.
They'd spend hours on a single verse.
Totally. And then our phlegmatic friends. They may not be super vocal about their faith, but they're consistent.
Like they never miss a day of their quiet time.
Right. Amazing how each temperament can be so different, even in faith. But LaHaye doesn't shy away from the challenges either, like fear and anger.
Yeah, those are big ones.
He actually lists out 8 causes of fear. Everything from like bad experiences to health problems to even, get this, art temperament itself.
Wow. So we're kind of like wired for certain fears in a way.
Yeah, it's wild. Makes you realize it's more complex than we think. And anger, he's pretty straight up about it, calls it a sin right out.
Yeah.
But he gives this really helpful plan for dealing with it, like figuring out what sets us off, finding good ways to express those feelings.
Because it's so easy to let it control us. Right.
Totally. But what I like is he doesn't just point out the problem, he gives us ways to actually grow and change.
Right.
Like moving towards what he calls a spirit-controlled temperament. Basically letting something bigger guide those natural tendencies.
Okay, I love that. So it's not like we're stuck with this one way of being.
Exactly. With self-awareness, and he really emphasizes this, with spiritual guidance, we can figure out those weaknesses, really use our strengths.
That is encouraging, for sure. And he even gives, like, practical ways to use this knowledge. Like, think about it in the workplace.
Oh, yeah. A manager who gets that everyone's wired differently, That could change everything.
Right. Instead of treating everyone the same, you adjust to each person.
Exactly.
And get this, he even relates it back to Bible study, how we connect with faith. It could be tied to temperament, too. We each kind of see the text differently.
Makes sense when you think about it. There's no right way to be spiritual. It's about finding what clicks for you.
Exactly. That just clicked for me. And speaking of clicking, he talks about relationships, too, especially marriage.
Oh, yeah.
He says often it's opposites that attract.
Which, exciting, but also could be a recipe for disaster.
Right. So he gets into those tough questions like, how do couples with different temperaments make it work? How does understanding each other actually make the relationship stronger?
It's like seeing past those surface differences,
Yep.
right? Those things that bug you at first could actually help you grow.
It's all about perspective.
And he even talks about something people don't always discuss, how temperament affects intimacy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Different temperaments, they experience that whole side of things so differently.
It's such a big part of a healthy relationship, but we don't always address it.
For sure. And LaHaye talks about how important communication is, knowing what your partner needs, balancing the physical and emotional.
There's just so much packed in this book.
I know. So much to think about.
It really is. So as we wrap up our deep dive into why you act the way you do, what really stuck with you?
I think the biggest thing is our temperament doesn't define us. It's like a starting point.
Okay, yeah.
By understanding how we're wired, that's how we use our strengths. Work on weaknesses, build those better relationships with ourselves, with everyone.
I love that. It's about self-awareness, accepting who we are, and knowing we can always grow.
Exactly.
Well, I hope this deep dive gave everyone a new perspective on why they are the way they are. It's really empowering stuff.
It is.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Happy exploring.
Don't forget to subscribe, share, and let us know what book you'd like us to cover next. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing, and keep those minds chaptered.